My wife and my family threw a luxurious dinner without me on my birthday. Oh, today was your birthday? Make sure to clean up after us. I quietly packed my bag and headed to a restaurant worthy of my special day. When they came to ask me to clean up, they found my letter. My wife's face froze, and my brother was left speechless. The snow had started falling around 4 in the afternoon. I remember because I was standing at my office window, watching the flakes catch the dying light, turning gold before they disappeared into the gray slush of the parking lot below. My phone sat on my desk, silent. No calls, no texts, nothing but the generic happy birthday message from my bank and a promotional email from a car dealership I'd visited once, 3 years ago. 38 years old today. I'd stopped expecting fanfare somewhere around my 30th birthday, but you never quite lose that small, childish hope that someone will remember. That someone will care enough to mark the day you entered the world as worth celebrating. But hope, I've learned, is just another word for setting yourself up for disappointment. My assistant, Rebecca, had remembered. She'd left a card on my desk that morning. Nothing expensive, just one of those Hallmark things with a generic cake on the front and a printed message inside. But she'd written a note in her careful handwriting. Hope your day is as wonderful as you are. Thanks for being such a great boss. It was more than I'd gotten from my wife. I texted Sarah that morning. Just a simple message, heading to the office. See you tonight. Her reply came 2 hours later. Busy day? We'll text later. No acknowledgement. No mention of the date. Nothing. My brother, Marcus, hadn't reached out either, but that was less surprising. Marcus operated on his own frequency, always had. We'd been close once, back when we were kids, before life and choices and the slow accumulation of resentments had driven a wedge between us that neither of us seemed particularly motivated to remove. The office had been quiet all day. I'd buried myself in work, reviewing contracts for the Henderson merger, approving budget allocations for Q1, responding to emails that had piled up over the weekend. Busy work. The kind of tasks that fill time without filling the void. At 5:30, I shut down my computer and packed my briefcase. The building was nearly empty. Most people had left early, beating the snow before it got worse. I took the elevator down to the parking garage, my footsteps echoing against concrete as I walked to my car. The drive home took longer than usual. The snow was coming down harder now, thick and heavy, the kind that muffles sound and makes the world feel smaller. I drove carefully, watching red taillights blur through my windshield, thinking about nothing and everything all at once. Our house sat at the end of a cul-de-sac in a neighborhood that real estate agents called established. Big houses, big lawns, big mortgages. I'd bought it 6 years ago, right after the promotion to senior vice president. Sarah had loved it immediately, loved the granite countertops and the walk-in closets, and the way sunlight flooded through the floor-to-ceiling windows in the living room. I'd loved how happy it made her. Funny how memory works, how selective it can be. The driveway was full when I pulled up. I counted 5 cars, including Sarah's Range Rover and Marcus's Tesla, my parents' Lexus, my sister Claire's Honda, and a BMW I didn't recognize. Company. Something twisted in my chest, something that felt dangerously close to hope. Maybe they'd planned something after all. Maybe Sarah had been acting distant all day because she was organizing a surprise. Maybe. I killed the thought before it could fully form. Hope was a trap. I'd learned that lesson too many times to fall for it again. I parked on the street and grabbed my briefcase from the passenger seat. The snow had already started to accumulate on the sidewalk. I'd need to shovel later, assuming the evening didn't go too late. Inside, I could see lights blazing in every window. Movement. Shadows passing back and forth. The front door was unlocked. I stepped inside and was immediately hit by warmth and noise and the rich smell of expensive food. Laughter echoed from the dining room. Music played softly from the speakers built into the ceiling, Sarah's dinner party playlist, the one she only used for special occasions. I set my briefcase down by the door and removed my coat, hanging it on the rack we'd bought at an antique store in Vermont during what I'd thought was a romantic weekend getaway. That had been 2 years ago, before things started to change, before the distance became something I couldn't ignore anymore. The hallway opened into our open-concept living space. Kitchen flowing into dining room, flowing into living room. All exposed beams and reclaimed wood and designer furniture that cost more than my first car. The dining table, a massive slab of walnut that seated 12, was set with our good china. Candles flickered in crystal holders. Wine glasses caught the light, and around the table sat my family. Sarah at the head, wearing the black dress she reserved for important occasions. Her hair was done, professionally styled, the way she only bothered with when she wanted to make an impression. Marcus next to her, laughing at something she'd just said, his hand casually resting on the back of her chair. My mother across from him, elegant as always, a string of pearls at her throat. My father beside her, already red-faced from wine. Claire and her husband, David, at the other end. And between them, the owner of the BMW, a man I didn't recognize, maybe 40, with the kind of casual confidence that comes from money or power or both. They were eating what looked like beef Wellington. I could see the remains of a first course, some kind of soup, being cleared away by our housekeeper, Maria, who shot me a quick, apologetic glance before disappearing back into the kitchen. Nobody looked up when I entered. Nobody noticed me at all. I stood there, briefcase still in hand, snow melting off my shoes onto the hardwood floor Sarah had insisted we have refinished last year. I stood there and watched my family, enjoying what was clearly an expensive, meticulously planned dinner party. On my birthday. Without me. The weather's getting nasty out there, I said. Conversation stopped. Heads turned. Sarah looked up, and for just a moment, just a fraction of a second, I saw something flash across her face. Surprise? Guilt? Annoyance? It was gone too quickly to identify. Oh, she said. You're home. Not happy birthday. Not, we were just about to call you. Not even come join us. Just, you're home. Yeah, I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, too calm, too flat. Traffic was bad. Snow. Sarah turned back to her plate, cutting a piece of beef with surgical precision. We started without you. Dinner was getting cold. I looked around the table. Marcus wouldn't meet my eyes. My mother was studying her wine glass with sudden intense focus. Claire at least had the decency to look uncomfortable, but she didn't say anything. The stranger, the BMW owner, looked confused, glancing between me and Sarah as if trying to work out the social dynamics. This is Robert, Sarah said, gesturing vaguely with her fork. Robert Chambers. He's the new partner at Whitmore and Associates. Robert, this is my husband, Daniel. Pleased to meet you, Robert said, half standing to extend a hand across the table. I shook it automatically, my brain still trying to process what I was seeing. Robert's handling the litigation for the Carsworth development, Marcus added. We've been working together on the environmental impact assessment. Of course, business. This was a business dinner. That's why my family was here, why Sarah had planned this elaborate meal, why the good china was out and Maria was bustling around playing server. Because it was important. Just not to me. Are you going to join us? My father asked. He at least sounded genuine, if confused. There's plenty of food. Actually, Sarah said before I could respond. Daniel usually eats later. He has to catch up on work emails after dinner. Don't you, honey? The endearment landed like a stone. Heavy and cold and purposeful. Right, I said slowly. Work emails. Perfect timing actually, Sarah continued, her voice bright and efficient. I was going to ask you anyway. Once we're done here, could you handle cleanup? Maria needs to leave early tonight. Family emergency. I looked at Maria, who was hovering in the kitchen doorway. She looked absolutely mortified, shaking her head slightly. There was no family emergency. We both knew it. Clean up, I repeated. Just the dishes and putting away leftovers. The usual. Sarah took a sip of wine. You don't mind, do you? You know how I am about the kitchen being left messy overnight. Around the table, nobody said anything. Marcus was studying his plate. Claire was biting her lip. My mother had developed a sudden fascination with the pattern on her napkin. And my father, who'd never been one for subtlety, cleared his throat and said, Sarah, isn't today Daniel's? Oh, Sarah's eyes widened in a performance of sudden realization. Oh my God, today was your birthday? Was. Past tense. As if the day was already over. As if it had come and gone without consequence or notice. Just another Tuesday in November. Nothing special. Nothing worth remembering. I am so sorry, Sarah continued, pressing her hand to her chest in mock dismay. It completely slipped my mind. We've just been so busy with this project, and Robert flew in from Seattle specifically for this dinner, and I've had a million things to coordinate. She turned to Robert with an apologetic smile. My husband's birthday. Can you believe I forgot? Robert laughed uncomfortably. Hey, happens to everyone. Happy birthday, Daniel. Thanks, I said. The word came out hollow. We'll celebrate this weekend, Sarah said briskly, already moving on. Maybe Saturday? We could go to that Italian place you like. My treat. That Italian place I like. She meant Romano's, the casual trattoria 3 blocks away where you could get decent pasta and cheap wine. Not Le Bernardin, where she'd taken her mother for her birthday last month. Not the Capitol Grill, where she and Marcus had celebrated the Carsworth contract. Not anywhere that actually meant something. Romano's. My treat. I should have been angry. I should have been hurt. I should have felt something sharp and immediate and righteous. Instead, I felt nothing at all. Just a strange, crystalline clarity. Like I was watching this scene from somewhere outside my own body, observing it with detached curiosity. Look at this man, I thought. Look at him standing in his own home, in his expensive shoes and his tailored suit, briefcase in hand, snow melting into puddles at his feet. Look at him being dismissed by his own wife, forgotten by his own family, made invisible in a room full of people who should love him. Look at him realize that none of this is an accident. Daniel. Sarah's voice had taken on an edge. The cleanup? Is that okay? I looked at her. Really looked at her. She was beautiful tonight. She was always beautiful. But there was something else there too. Something I'd been too close to see, too invested to acknowledge. A coldness behind her eyes. A calculation in the set of her mouth. She wanted me to say no. She wanted me to make a scene, to get angry, to give her ammunition for later. She wanted me to be unreasonable so she could be the reasonable one. So she could sigh and tell her friends about her difficult husband, so she could justify whatever was happening here. But I wasn't going to give her that. Sure, I said quietly. No problem. Something flickered across her face. Disappointment? She recovered quickly, smiling. Thank you, honey. You're the best. I turned and walked back down the hallway before anyone could see my face. Behind me, conversation resumed. Laughter. The clink of silver on china. Marcus saying something that made Robert laugh. My mother asking about the wine. Life continuing as if I'd never been there at all. In the entryway, I picked up my briefcase. My coat was still on the rack, dusted with melting snow. I could go upstairs. I could go to my office, shut the door, pour myself a drink, and wait for this nightmare evening to end. I could do what Sarah expected, retreat, comply, disappear. Or I could do something else. I looked at my watch. 6:45. Still time. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. The numbers looked back at me, steady and substantial. 6 years of 80-hour weeks. 6 years of sacrificing weekends and holidays. 6 years of building someone else's empire while my own life slowly crumbled. But at least I'd been paid well for it. I opened my text messages and scrolled to Rebecca's name. Typed, sorry for the last-minute request. Personal emergency. Can you book me a table at Aquavit? Tonight if possible. Best table they have. Price not an issue. Her response came in less than a minute. On it. Give me 10 minutes. I deleted the message thread and slipped my phone back into my pocket. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I went upstairs to our bedroom, mine and Sarah's, though it had been months since we'd shared it in any meaningful way, and I packed a bag. Not everything. Just essentials. Clothes for a few days. Toiletries. My passport, because I'd learned to always keep it current. Documents from the safe in my closet, the ones Sarah didn't know about, because everyone should have secrets, especially when they're married to someone with as many secrets as I suspected Sarah had. My phone buzzed. Rebecca, you're confirmed for 8 p.m. Corner table, private. They're excited to have you. Me, you're getting a raise. Rebecca, you already gave me one last month. Me, you're getting another one. I changed out of my work clothes and into something appropriate for Aquavit. Dark jeans, a black cashmere sweater, the Tom Ford blazer I'd bought myself last Christmas because Sarah had given me a toaster. I looked at myself in the mirror. Same face, same eyes. But something had shifted. Something fundamental. Downstairs, the party was still going. I could hear them from the second-floor landing. Loud now, loosened by wine. Someone, Marcus, probably, was telling a story that had everyone laughing. Sarah's laugh rose above the rest, bright and performative. I descended the stairs quietly, walked past the dining room without looking in, into my office, the small room at the back of the house that Sarah had let me have, because she didn't need it for anything. My laptop was still on my desk from this morning when I checked emails before leaving for work. I opened it and created a new document. Stared at the blank page. What do you say to someone who's forgotten you exist? What do you say to a family that's made you invisible? I started typing. The words came easily. Too easily. Like they'd been waiting years to be written, collecting in some deep reservoir inside me. And now the dam had finally broken. I typed for 20 minutes. Didn't edit. Didn't second guess. Just let it pour out. Every observation, every realization, every carefully suppressed hurt. When I finished, I read it through once, printed it, and placed it in an envelope. On the front, in my careful handwriting, I wrote, "To Sarah and my family." I left it on the dining room table, right where my place setting would have been if anyone had bothered to set me a place. Then I walked out the front door, got in my car, and drove away from my life. The snow had tapered off by the time I reached Aquavit. The city looked clean in that temporary way fresh snow creates, all the dirt and ugliness briefly hidden under a blanket of white. I parked in the garage across the street and walked to the restaurant, my bag slung over my shoulder. The hostess greeted me like I was someone important. Maybe I was. Maybe I'd always been, and I'd just forgotten because nobody at home had reminded me. "Mr. Chun, welcome. Right this way." The corner table was perfect, secluded but not isolated, with a view of the room but enough privacy for solitude. Ambient lighting that felt warm without being dim. The kind of table people request for proposals or celebrations or intimate conversations that matter. I ordered champagne because it was my birthday and I was done pretending to be small. The server, Stefan, according to his name tag, smiled when he poured. "Special occasion?" "Birthday," I said. "Wonderful. Happy birthday, sir. Are you waiting for others to join you?" "No," I said. "Just me tonight." He didn't miss a beat, didn't show pity or confusion. Just nodded and said, "Then we'll make sure it's a birthday to remember. Chef has prepared something special for the tasting menu tonight. May I suggest it?" "Perfect." I sat back and let the restaurant happen around me. It felt surreal, being here alone, being here at all. How long had it been since I'd done something just for myself? Since I'd gone somewhere because I wanted to, not because it served someone else's purpose? My phone started buzzing halfway through the first course. I glanced at it. Sarah. I turned it face down on the table and took another bite of the sea trout. It was extraordinary, delicate and rich, perfectly balanced. The kind of food that makes you pay attention, that demands presence. The phone buzzed again, and again, and again. I ignored it. Between the third and fourth courses, I finally picked it up and scrolled through the messages. "Sarah, where are you?" "Sarah. Daniel, this isn't funny." "Sarah, we found your letter." "What the hell is this supposed to mean?" "Marcus." "Dude, call me." "Marcus, seriously, what's going on?" "Claire. Danny, please call. Everyone's worried." "Mom." "Daniel, honey, can we talk?" I set the phone down and signaled for more champagne. The letter. They'd found it. Good. I wondered which of them had read it first. I wondered if Sarah had read it aloud or if they'd passed it around in silence. I wondered what their faces had looked like when they got to certain parts. The parts about Sarah. The parts about Marcus. The parts about all of them. I should back up. I should explain what was in that letter, what I'd written in those 20 minutes of crystalline fury. But that's not how memory works, is it? That's not how pain works. It comes in fragments. In flashes. In the slow accumulation of small moments that you don't recognize as significant until you see them all together, laid out like evidence at a crime scene. Let me tell you what I saw tonight that you might have missed. Let me tell you what I've been seeing for months now. Years, maybe. Sarah and Marcus. The way they sit too close. The way his hand rests too casually on the back of her chair. The way she laughs at his jokes, the Rayal laugh, the one she used to save for me. The way they have inside jokes and finish each other's sentences and exchange glances that speak entire conversations. The way they've been working together on this Carsworth project, spending late nights at the office, taking business trips that seem to require both of them despite their different specialties. I'm not stupid. I'm not blind. I'm just someone who chose, for a very long time, not to see. Because seeing would require action. Seeing would require change. Seeing would mean admitting that the life I'd built was a lie. But tonight they'd made it impossible not to see. My wife and my brother. My family and their complicity. The casual cruelty of forgetting someone's birthday isn't really forgetting at all. It's a message. It's a statement of priorities. It's saying, you don't matter enough to remember. And the worst part? I'd made it easy for them. I'd worked myself to exhaustion, poured everything into a career that provided the money for their lifestyle and the excuse for their distance. I'd been so focused on being successful that I'd stopped noticing when success started looking like loneliness. I'd been convenient, useful, the ATM machine in a suit, providing funds and asking nothing in return except the basic respect of acknowledgement. And when you don't demand respect, eventually people stop offering it. The 8th course arrived, some kind of duck preparation that probably cost more than a week of groceries. Stefan described it in loving detail. I nodded and smiled and let the words wash over me. My phone buzzed again. I picked it up. Sarah, you need to come home. Now. Sarah, this is childish. You're embarrassing yourself. Sarah, fine. Do what you want. You always do anyway. Interesting progression. Anger to dismissal to accusation. The narcissist's prayer in real time. That didn't happen. And if it did, it wasn't that bad. And if it was, that's not a big deal. And if it is, that's not my fault. And if it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, you deserved it. I typed a response, enjoying a birthday dinner. The sea base is excellent. You should try this place sometime. Sent. 3 dots appeared immediately, disappeared, appeared again. Then, Sarah, what the fuck does that mean? Me. It means exactly what it says. Sarah, your letter was completely uncalled for. You made serious accusations based on nothing. Me, was it nothing? Sarah, you're being paranoid. Marcus and I are working together. That's it. Me. Okay. Sarah, that's all you have to say? Me, what else is there? 3 dots. Disappearing. Reappearing. Then silence. I set the phone down and returned to my dinner. Here's what I wrote in that letter. Here's what made Sarah's face freeze and Marcus speechless. Dear Sarah and my family, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. Not far, probably. Not yet. But gone from this house, from this evening, from the role I've been playing for longer than I care to admit. 38 years ago today, I was born. My mother, who's sitting at this table, held me and told me I was a miracle. My father, also at this table, promised he'd always be there for me. My brother, currently laughing at something my wife just said, used to call me his best friend. Funny how things change. Sarah, you asked if I'd clean up after your dinner party. You asked it so casually, so naturally, as if it were the most reasonable request in the world. And maybe it was. Maybe I've trained you to expect nothing more from me than utility. Maybe I've made myself so small, so accommodating, so desperate not to make waves that I've become invisible even to myself. But let me tell you what I saw tonight, and what I've been seeing for months. I saw my wife and my brother sitting too close, touching too casually, sharing too many private jokes. I saw my parents allowing it, either through willful blindness or simple indifference. I saw my sister looking uncomfortable but saying nothing, choosing the path of least resistance like we all do when confronting truth becomes harder than accepting lies. I saw a family having a party without me, on my birthday, and when I appeared, I saw annoyance, inconvenience, the mild disappointment you feel when something disrupts your plans. Oh, today was your birthday? Past tense, like it had already come and gone. Like I had already come and gone. Maybe I have. I've spent 6 years building a career that provides the lifestyle you all enjoy. 6 years of 80-hour weeks, missed dinners, sacrificed weekends. 6 years watching my wife grow more distant, watching my marriage transform from partnership to transaction. 6 years being the reliable one, the responsible one, the one who could be counted on to pay the bills and ask no questions. 6 years disappearing into a role that everyone needed me to play, but nobody needed me to be. Sarah, I don't know when you stopped loving me. Maybe you never did. Maybe I was always just a means to an end. The successful husband, the stable provider, the acceptable choice. Maybe I made it too easy for you by being so relentlessly dependable that you started taking dependability for the entirety of who I am. Marcus, you're my brother. We built forts together as kids. We protected each other. I stood up for you when Dad was being hard on you about your grades. I lent you money when your startup failed. I believed in you when nobody else did. And you repaid me by taking my wife. Don't insult me by denying it. I have eyes. I have instincts. I have bank statements showing hotel charges and dinner receipts and a paper trail of deception that would be almost impressive if it weren't so cliché. Mom and Dad, you taught me about family, about loyalty, about standing up for what's right. And tonight, you sat at my table, in my house, and watched my wife disrespect me. You watched Marcus undermine me. You said nothing. Claire, you're not innocent either. You've known. I can see it in how you look at me. That mixture of pity and relief. Pity that I'm in this situation. Relief that you're not. So here's what's going to happen. I'm leaving. Tonight. Not forever, at least not yet. But I'm leaving this house and this evening and this performance of family that we've all been staging for too long. I'm going to have the birthday dinner I deserve. At a restaurant that respects me. By myself. Because apparently that's preferable to being surrounded by people who've forgotten I exist. And tomorrow, Sarah, we're going to have a conversation. A real one. About bank accounts and mortgages and the prenuptial agreement you insisted we didn't need because we'd never end up like that. Remember that conversation? I do. I remember everything. Every promise. Every assurance. Every lie. Marcus, you and I are done. Professionally, personally, fraternally, done. You can have whatever you think you've won. I hope it keeps you warm. Mom and Dad, I love you. But I love myself more. And that's something I should have learned a long time ago. Claire, call me when you find your spine. I'll be back for my things. Please don't be here when I am. Daniel. P.S. Sarah, since you asked. Yes, I'll make sure to clean up. I'm taking myself out of this mess. Consider it the ultimate cleanup. I finished my dinner slowly, savoring each course, letting the restaurant staff treat me like I mattered. Because I did matter. Maybe not to Sarah or Marcus or my family, but to myself. And that was enough. Stefan brought the check in a leather folio. I glanced at the total and didn't flinch. $846 for dinner for one. Worth every penny. I added a 50% tip and signed my name with a flourish. I hope you enjoyed your birthday, Mr. Chun, Stefan said. Best one I've had in years, I told him. And I meant it. Outside, the snow had started again. Light flurries, just enough to make the streetlights glow. I stood on the sidewalk and breathed in cold air and let myself feel what I'd been suppressing all evening. Not anger, not hurt, not even sadness. Relief. Pure, overwhelming relief. Like I'd been holding my breath underwater for years and had finally been allowed to surface. My phone rang. Sarah. I declined the call and blocked the number. Then I blocked Marcus. Then my parents. Then everyone except Claire, because she at least had looked uncomfortable. I pulled up my email and typed a message to my attorney. Brief, professional, need to discuss divorce proceedings. Can you meet tomorrow morning? Urgent. His response came 5 minutes later. My office, 8 a.m. I'll clear my schedule. Then I did something I should have done months ago. I called the bank's after-hours service and placed a hold on all joint accounts pending fraud review. It would take effect immediately. It would freeze Sarah's credit cards. It would prevent any large transfers. It would, essentially, cut off her access to my money until I could formalize the separation. She'd be furious. Good. Let her be furious in the house I'd paid for, surrounded by the furniture I'd bought, eating the food I'd provided. Let her be furious while I figured out what my life looked like without her in it. I checked into a hotel downtown. Not the most expensive. I wasn't trying to prove anything anymore. Just somewhere clean and anonymous. The room was sterile and impersonal and absolutely perfect. No memories here. No ghosts. No expectations. I ordered room service, just a whiskey neat, and sat by the window looking out at the city. My city. The place I'd built my career, my life, my identity as someone who mattered. Somewhere out there, Sarah was probably having a meltdown. Marcus was probably trying to do damage control. My parents were probably confused and hurt, unable to understand why I was overreacting. But I wasn't overreacting. I was finally reacting appropriately. I didn't sleep well that night. Not because I was upset, but because my mind wouldn't stop working. 6 years of marriage. 12 years before that of dating. On and off. The relationship everyone said was meant to be. 18 years total of history with Sarah, and I was trying to pinpoint the exact moment things had started to rot. Was it when I got the promotion to senior VP? When the money started rolling in and Sarah's interest shifted from me to what I could provide? Was it when Marcus moved back to the city and started working at the same firm? When the three of us started having dinners together and I started noticing the way Sarah laughed too hard at his jokes? Was it earlier? Those late-night fights about money and priorities and the fact that I was married to my job. The gradual shift from passion to cohabitation to parallel lives lived under the same roof? Or had it always been this way, and I'd just been too infatuated to notice? I thought about the prenup conversation. How Sarah had said, "Don't you trust me? Don't you believe in us?" How she'd made me feel like asking for legal protection was a betrayal of love itself. How I'd been so desperate to prove my faith in our marriage that I'd left myself completely exposed. Stupid. So stupid. But I'd been 23 and in love and convinced that wanting security meant lacking commitment. I'd thought vulnerability was the same as trust. I'd thought that if I just loved her enough, worked hard enough, provided enough, she'd love me back the way I loved her. I'd thought wrong. At 6 a.m., I gave up on sleep and went to the hotel gym. Ran on the treadmill until my legs burned and my lungs screamed and my mind finally went quiet. Showered. Dressed in my second-best suit. The Tom Ford was wrinkled from last night. Called down for coffee. At 7:30, I was in my attorney's office. David Remington had been my lawyer for 5 years, primarily for business contracts and corporate stuff, but he'd mentioned once that he'd handled some high-net-worth divorces. He was in his 50s, gray-haired and sharp-eyed, with the kind of calm competence that makes you want to tell him everything. "Daniel," he said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. "You sounded urgent on the email. What's going on?" I told him. Everything. The dinner party. The forgotten birthday. Sarah and Marcus. The letter. The decision to leave. He listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad, his expression neutral. When I finished, he set down his pen and looked at me. "First," he said, "I'm sorry you're going through this. That's a hell of a thing to experience on your birthday or any day. Thanks. Second, and I need to ask this directly, do you have proof of the affair? Not concrete proof. No photos, no explicit texts. But there are patterns. Hotel charges, dinner receipts, the way they act together. Circumstantial evidence." David nodded slowly. Circumstantial evidence can be suggestive, but it won't be definitive in court. However, infidelity isn't actually necessary for divorce. We have no-fault divorce in this state. What matters more for our purposes is asset protection. I froze the joint accounts last night. His eyebrows raised slightly. "Smart move. What about the house?" "In both our names, but I paid the down payment and I've been covering the mortgage. I have documentation. Other assets. Investment accounts in my name. My 401k. Some real estate I inherited from my grandmother. A few other things. And no prenup." "No prenup." David leaned back in his chair. "Okay, here's the situation. Without a prenup, anything acquired during the marriage is generally considered marital property regardless of whose name is on it. That includes your salary, your bonuses, investment gains, the house appreciation. Sarah will be entitled to a portion. How much? Depends on several factors. Length of marriage, earning capacity, standard of living during marriage. But typically, 40 to 50% of marital assets. Maybe more if she has a good attorney. The number hit like a punch to the gut, even though I'd expected it. 6 years of work, of sacrifice, of building wealth, and half would go to someone who'd betrayed me. However, David continued, there are ways to be strategic about this. The inheritance from your grandmother. That's separate property if you kept it properly segregated. Your 401k contributions from before the marriage, also separate. Any business interest you had prior, same thing. Most of my wealth was built during the marriage. Then this is going to be expensive. He said it bluntly, not unkindly. But expensive doesn't mean impossible. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Sometimes the cost of staying is higher than the cost of leaving. I thought about last night. About standing in my own home, invisible and forgotten. About Sarah's casual cruelty. About Marcus's betrayal. About the slow death of dignity that happens when you stay somewhere you're not valued. I want the divorce, I said. Whatever it costs. Then let's make sure it costs as little as possible while getting you free as quickly as possible. David pulled up something on his computer. First step, we file immediately. The sooner we establish a date of separation, the sooner we stop the clock on marital assets. Every day you wait is another day her claim extends to your earnings. File today. I can have the papers ready by this afternoon. We'll need to serve her, which requires. I'll pay for a process server. I don't want to see her. David nodded. Understood. Next, we need to document everything. bank statements, credit card charges, any evidence of dissipation of marital assets. If Sarah or Marcus has been spending marital funds on their affair, hotels, gifts, dinners, that's something we can potentially use to argue for unequal distribution. I have most of that. I'll compile it. Good. Also, and this is important, do not engage with Sarah or Marcus directly. All communication goes through me. If they call, text, email, ignore it. If they show up somewhere you are, leave. We don't want to give them any ammunition to claim harassment or hostility. The letter I left, was that a mistake? David smiled slightly. In terms of legal strategy, probably not ideal. In terms of emotional catharsis, I'm guessing necessary. What matters now is that you don't follow it up with anything else. No more confrontations. No more dramatic gestures. From here on, this is business, not personal. Business, I repeated. The word felt right. Cold, clean, transactional. One more thing, David said. Your brother, Marcus. If he's involved in your business life, any shared projects, contracts, partnerships, we need to extract you from those immediately. Clean break, no entanglements. Can you make that happen? I thought about the Carsworth project, about the deals we'd worked on together, about the professional reputation we'd built as a team. Yes, I said, I can make that happen. Then do it. Today, if possible. The less intertwined your lives are, the easier this divorce becomes. We spent another hour going through details. Asset lists, debt obligations, potential custody issues. None. Thank God. We'd never had children, and timeline. David thought we could have this finalized in 6 months if Sarah was cooperative, a year if she fought. She'll fight, I said. She won't go quietly. Then we'll be prepared for a fight. But Daniel, let me fight it. You stay calm, stay dignified, and stay focused on building your new life. The best revenge isn't anger. It's living well. I left his office at 9:30 with a plan, a strategy, and the first real sense of purpose I'd felt in months. My office was predictably quiet when I arrived. Tuesday morning, most people were in meetings or heads down on work. I nodded to a few colleagues in the hallway, but didn't stop to chat. Went straight to my office, shut the door, and started making calls. First, my boss, Catherine Morrison, the CFO. I explained the situation in professional terms. Personal matter, need to extract myself from joint projects with Marcus. Can I get reassigned? She didn't ask questions. Just said, consider it done. You're too valuable to lose over a family issue. I'll handle Marcus. Second, HR. Same conversation, different person. They assured me they'd keep things confidential and would make sure Marcus and I weren't scheduled for the same meetings. Third, IT. I need you to audit access to my files. Specifically, I want to know if anyone's been accessing my documents without authorization. The IT director, a sharp woman named Priya, said, I can run that audit. Any particular time frame? Last 6 months. Give me until end of day. Fourth, my financial advisor. Emergency meeting. Today if possible. I need to restructure some things. 2 p.m. work. Perfect. By noon, I'd systematically started dismantling the infrastructure of my old life. It felt efficient, clinical, like performing surgery on myself, cutting away the infected tissue to save the healthy parts. My phone had been buzzing all morning. I'd turned off notifications, but the missed call count kept climbing. 17 calls from Sarah, 23 texts, 12 calls from Marcus, 6 from my mother, 3 from my father, 2 from Claire. I didn't read any of them. At 12:30, Rebecca knocked on my door with lunch, a salad from the place down the street that I liked, and a concerned expression. You okay, boss? Better than I've been in a while. She studied me for a moment. Good. You looked miserable yesterday. Less miserable today. Clarity is helpful. Whatever you're going through, I'm here if you need anything. Errands, scheduling chaos, someone to screen calls. Whatever. Thank you, Rebecca. Actually, there is something. Can you book me a flight? Where to? I don't care. Somewhere warm. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere I can think. Budget. First class. Luxury hotel. Leaving Friday if possible. She pulled out her phone, already. Searching. Solo trip. Very solo. Then I'm thinking Turks and Caicos. Private villa, full service, absolutely gorgeous. I'll find you something perfect. You're a lifesaver. I'm employee of the month. There's a difference. She grinned and left, pulling the door closed behind her. I ate my salad and stared at my computer screen and let myself imagine it. White sand beaches, turquoise water, nothing to do but read and swim and remember what it felt like to be someone other than Daniel Chun, Senior Vice President, professional provider, forgotten husband. Just Daniel. Whoever he was underneath all the roles and expectations. The rest of the week passed in a strange blur. I worked. I met with lawyers. I met with financial advisors. I systematically extracted myself from every entanglement with Marcus, watching as projects were reassigned and partnerships dissolved. It was easier than I'd expected. Nobody asked too many questions. Everyone was professional, sympathetic even, in that distant corporate way. Priya from IT delivered her audit on Wednesday. Sat across from my desk with a printed report, her expression carefully neutral. So, she said, good news and bad news. Good news, your files are secure. No unauthorized access from external sources. And bad news. Marcus Chun has been accessing your documents for the past 4 months. Frequently. Including files marked confidential, including strategy documents for clients he's not assigned to. How frequently? 73 separate instances. I have timestamps. She slid the report across the desk. I skimmed it. Late nights. Weekends. Times when I was out of the office, when he'd have known I wouldn't be checking access logs. He'd been careful, but not careful enough. This counts as corporate espionage, doesn't it? Technically, yes. If you wanted to pursue it formally. I thought about it. About what it would mean to report Marcus to Catherine, to HR, to potentially law enforcement. About the satisfaction of watching his career implode the way my marriage had. Then I thought about David's advice. Stay dignified. Let me fight it. Can you lock him out of my files going forward? Already done. As of yesterday morning. And keep this report confidential? Absolutely. But Daniel? If there's sensitive client information in those files, information that could be used against the company or our clients, you need to escalate this. Give me 24 hours to think about it. She left the report and walked out, and I sat there staring at 73 separate instances of betrayal. Not just personal, professional. Marcus hadn't just taken my wife. He'd been stealing my work, my strategies, my intellectual property, using family access to undermine me in the one place I'd thought was safe. I called David. Your brother's been accessing your work files without authorization. Proof. Timestamped audit report from IT. 73 instances. David whistled low. That changes things. That's leverage. Sarah might push back on the divorce terms. But if Marcus has exposure on corporate espionage, they might both be more motivated to settle quickly and quietly. I don't want to destroy him, I said. Surprised to find I meant it. I just want to be free. Then we use this as negotiation leverage. Make it clear that you could pursue charges, but won't if they cooperate with an expedited, favorable divorce settlement. Put the fear of God in them without actually pulling the trigger. Do it. Thursday, the divorce papers were ready. Friday morning, a process server showed up at the house at 7 a.m. and handed them to Sarah as she was leaving for work. I know because Catherine called me at 7:15. Your brother's wife just called me screaming about hostile work environment and legal harassment. Want to tell me what's going on? Marcus's wife. Sarah, I thought you knew. They registered their marriage with HR 3 months ago. For the benefits. The world stopped. They're married. According to our records, yes. Filed the paperwork in August. It just got processed last. Daniel? You still there? I was there. I was sitting in my hotel room, packed for my flight to Turks and Caicos, staring at nothing while my brain tried to process what I'd just heard. Sarah and Marcus were married. Not having an affair, married. Which meant my marriage to Sarah was. Daniel, when did I file my marriage certificate with HR? Let me check. Hold on. Typing sounds. Looks like you never did. I don't have any marriage record for you at all. Because Sarah had said she'd take care of it. Because she'd said it was just paperwork, just bureaucracy, not important. Because I trusted her. Catherine, I need to go. Daniel, if there's something, I'll call you back. I hung up and immediately called David. They're married. Sarah and Marcus. They registered with his employer 3 months ago. But you and Sarah are married. Are we? Really? Or did she just skip that part? Silence on the other end. Then, Daniel, where's your marriage certificate? Sarah said she filed it. After the wedding. She handled all the paperwork. But you never saw confirmation? Never got anything official back. I thought about it. About the wedding 6 years ago, small and intimate, just family at a courthouse. About Sarah saying she'd handle the boring paperwork while we focused on the honeymoon. About how I'd never seen the actual certificate, never checked, never thought to verify, because why would I? No, I said slowly. I never saw confirmation. I need you to go to the county clerk's office. Today. Right now. Pull your marriage record. If there's no record, if Sarah never filed, then I've been living with someone for 6 years thinking I was married when I wasn't. And she's committed fraud. Possibly bigamy if she's legally married to Marcus. And you, my friend, are not legally bound to her at all. The implications crashed over me in waves. No marriage meant no community property, no alimony, no splitting of assets. It meant that everything I'd earned, everything I'd built, was entirely mine. It meant I was free. I'm going to the clerk's office, I said. Call me the second you know. I grabbed my coat and headed out, flagging a taxi because I didn't trust myself to drive. The county clerk's office was downtown, a gray government building that smelled like old paper and bureaucracy. I stood in line behind an elderly couple renewing something, a young couple getting a marriage license, and a woman filing for a name change. When it was my turn, I approached the counter and said, I need to pull a marriage record. My name is Daniel Chun. The marriage would have been filed 6 years ago, October 15th. The clerk, a middle-aged woman with reading glasses on a chain, typed into her computer. Waited. Typed more. Frowned. I'm not seeing anything under that name for that date. Can you give me the spouse's name? Sarah Chun. Maiden name Sarah Morrison. More typing. More frowning. I'm not finding any record of a marriage between Daniel Chun and Sarah Morrison or Sarah Chun on that date, or any date near it. Are you sure about the date? Completely sure. It was our wedding day. And you're certain it was filed in this county? This is where we got married. Where she said she'd file. The clerk looked at me over her glasses, something like sympathy in her expression. Sir, if she said she filed and there's no record, then either she filed in a different county or she never filed at all. I'm sorry. I stood there, gripping the edge of the counter, trying to process what this meant. 6 years. 6 years of thinking I was married. 6 years of building a life with someone who'd never actually made it legal. 6 years of being lied to in the most fundamental way possible. Can you check under Marcus Chin? Same date, or any date in the last 6 months. The clerk typed. Nodded. Yes. Marcus Chun married Sarah Morrison, August 23rd of this year. Filed here in this county. There it was. Official, documented, irrefutable proof. Sarah had never married me. She'd married my brother. Everything I'd thought I knew about my life was a lie. I called David from the steps of the courthouse. There's no record. She never filed our marriage. But there's a record of her marrying Marcus. August 23rd. Jesus Christ. I heard him exhale sharply. Okay, this is actually good for you, Daniel. I know it doesn't feel that way, but legally, I'm not married to her. I never was. Correct. Which means there's no divorce to file. No community property to split. You owe her nothing. The house is yours if your name's on the deed. The accounts are yours if they're in your name. Everything is yours. She committed fraud. Yes, she did. And if you want to pursue charges, you absolutely can. But Daniel, listen to me. The best thing you can do right now is walk away. Change the locks on your house. Remove her belongings. Freeze her out completely. She has no legal claim to anything because she was never your wife. She was living in my house, using my money. As a tenant, essentially. Maybe a partner, but not a spouse. You can evict her with 30 days' notice. You can cut off all financial support immediately. You can erase her from your life like she never existed. What about Marcus? The corporate espionage. That's separate. That's between him and his employer. But if you want my advice, let HR handle it. You don't need to be the one to destroy him. Just make sure he can't hurt you anymore. I sat down on the courthouse steps, letting the cold seep through my pants, not caring. Around me, the city moved, people rushing to meetings, couples holding hands, life continuing like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I wasn't a victim of a failing marriage. I was a victim of a con. Sarah had never intended to be my wife. She'd moved into my house, spent my money, presented herself as my spouse to everyone we knew, all while planning. What? To eventually marry Marcus? To keep us both on the hook? To see how long she could maintain the fiction? Daniel. David's voice in my ear. You still there? Yeah, I'm here. What do you want to do? What did I want to do? I wanted to go scorched earth. I wanted to expose Sarah to everyone we knew. I wanted to press charges for fraud. I wanted to make her suffer the way she'd made me suffer. But more than that, I wanted to be free. Send her an eviction notice, I said. 30 days. I want her out of my house. Cut off her access to any accounts with my name on them. And I want a cease and desist letter sent to both her and Marcus. If they contact me, speak about me publicly, or attempt to access any of my property, we pursue legal action. Done. And David, I'm going out of town for a week. If anything urgent comes up, handle it. I trust you. Where are you going? Somewhere I can remember who I am when I'm not performing for people who don't appreciate the show. I hung up and sat there on the courthouse steps for another 10 minutes. Let myself feel it all. The betrayal, the anger, the humiliation, the grief for something that had never actually existed. Then I stood up, flagged another taxi, and went back to my hotel to catch my flight. Turks and Caicos was exactly what I needed. Rebecca had found me a private villa on a secluded beach. All white walls and open spaces, floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out on turquoise water that seemed to glow from within. There was a pool, a private chef who came twice a day to prepare meals, and absolutely nothing to do but exist. I spent the first 2 days sleeping. Not stressed sleep or exhausted sleep, but deep, healing sleep that felt like my body was finally letting go of years of tension. I'd wake up, swim, eat whatever the chef had prepared, and go back to sleep. Like a hibernating animal, storing up rest for the winter ahead. On the third day, I finally felt human enough to think. I sat on the beach with my laptop, because even in paradise, you can't completely disconnect when you're a senior VP, and started going through everything. Bank statements, property records, communications, building a timeline of Sarah's deception. October 15th, 6 years ago, our wedding. Small ceremony, just family. Sarah in a simple white dress, me in my best suit, both of us smiling for photos that I'd eventually thrown away. She'd said she wanted intimate, meaningful, just us and the people we loved. I thought it was romantic. I hadn't realized it was tactical. If you keep the wedding small, fewer people ask about paperwork. November that year, Sarah had moved into my condo. Her lease was up, she'd said. It made sense to live together. We were married, after all. I'd added her to the lease, given her keys, integrated her into my life. March the next year, we'd bought the house. My credit, my down payment, but both our names on the deed because that's what married couples do, right? They share assets. They build a life together. She'd insisted, said it was important to her to feel like an equal partner. Equal partner in a sham marriage. I'd been making the mortgage payments. All 6 years of them. While Sarah spent my money on clothes and spa days and business lunches with Marcus. God, Marcus. I pulled up my phone and, against David's advice, unblocked Claire's number. Called her. She answered on the second ring. Danny, when did you know? Silence. Claire, when did you know about Sarah and Marcus? I didn't. I suspected, but I wasn't. How long? More silence. Then, quietly, about a year. Maybe longer. I saw them together at a restaurant once, on the other side of town. They were close, holding hands. I thought maybe I was misunderstanding. Maybe it was a business thing, but you knew. I didn't want to believe it, and I didn't know what to do. If I told you, would you have believed me? Or would you have thought I was trying to stir up trouble? Would it have even mattered? Yes, I said. It would have mattered. I'm sorry. I should have said something. I was a coward. You were complicit. I know. Does everyone know? Mom and Dad. The rest of the family. I don't think so. Maybe Mom suspects something. But you know how she is. She doesn't want to see anything unpleasant. She just wants everything to be nice and smooth and perfect. Perfect. Right. Perfect family. Perfect marriage. Perfect life. All of it a performance, a facade, maintained through collective willful blindness. They're married, I said. Sarah and Marcus. Legally married. Have been since August. What? But you and Sarah were never legally married. She never filed the paperwork. It was fake. All of it. Claire made a sound somewhere between a gasp and a sob. Jesus, Danny. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Me too. What are you going to do? I've already done it. I'm evicting her from my house. I've cut off her access to my money. I've extracted myself from everything to do with Marcus professionally. And now I'm sitting on a beach in Turks and Caicos, trying to remember what it feels like to not be someone's mark. You're in Turks and Caicos? Rebecca booked it. Private villa. It's obscenely expensive and absolutely worth it. Good. You deserve it. She paused. Danny, I know I screwed up. I know I should have told you. But I'm here now. If you need anything, someone to talk to, someone to help with logistics, whatever, I'm here. Thanks, Claire. I mean it. You're my brother. I should have had your back. Yeah, I said. You should have. I hung up and sat there looking at the ocean, thinking about family and loyalty and all the ways we fail each other in the name of keeping peace. The messages from Sarah had escalated over the week. I hadn't been reading them, but curiosity finally got the better of me. I scrolled through, watching the progression. Day 1. We need to talk. This is ridiculous. Day 2. You can't just freeze the accounts. I have bills to pay. Day 3. Marcus says you've been spreading lies about us at work. This is harassment. Day 4. Fine. You want to play hardball? We'll play hardball. My lawyer will be in touch. Day 5. I got your eviction notice. You can't kick me out of my own house. Day 6. You're being vindictive and cruel. I thought you were better than this. Day 7. Please. Can we just talk? Let me explain. I almost laughed at that last one. Let me explain. What possible explanation could justify 6 years of fraud? What story could make this okay? I typed a response. Deleted it. Typed another. Deleted that too. Finally settled on. There's nothing to explain. You married my brother while pretending to be my wife. You committed fraud. You used me. It's over. Don't contact me again. Send it before I could second-guess myself. Her response came within seconds. It's not what you think. Me. It's exactly what I think. You and Marcus deserve each other. Sarah, you don't understand. We were going to tell you. Me, when? On our 10th anniversary? When I found you in bed together. When you drained my accounts and disappeared? Sarah, it wasn't like that. I cared about you. I still do. Me. You never filed our marriage certificate. You committed fraud. You cared about my money. That's all. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then, Sarah, you were never there. You worked constantly. I was lonely. Marcus actually paid attention to me. And there it was. The justification. The rationalization. The classic blame shift. I made her do it by being unavailable. Me. I worked to provide the lifestyle you demanded. The house you wanted. The cars, the clothes, the vacations. I gave you everything. Sarah, accept yourself. Me. I gave you 6 years. Apparently, that wasn't worth even filing a marriage certificate. Sarah, I'm sorry. I know I hurt you. But we can fix this. Me, no. We can't. Because there was never anything to fix. There was never a we. Just you and Marcus. And me as the convenient ATM. Sarah, that's not fair. Me. Life isn't fair. But justice is possible. Be out of my house in 30 days, or I press fraud charges. Your choice. I blocked her number again and threw my phone in my bag. The rest of the week passed in a haze of sun and salt water and slowly rebuilding my sense of self. I read actual books, not work documents. I swam until my arms were sore. I talked to the chef, Luis, about his life and his family and his dreams of opening his own restaurant someday. I tipped him absurdly well because I could, because generosity felt better than bitterness. On my last night, I sat on the beach with a glass of rum and watched the sunset. The sky went pink and orange and purple, colors so vivid they looked artificial. Waves rolled in steadily, rhythmically, the kind of sound that makes you understand why people pay money for white noise machines. My phone rang. David, hope I'm not interrupting paradise, he said. You're not. What's up? Sarah's attorney contacted me. She wants to settle. She's willing to vacate the property, waive any claims to your assets, and sign a non-disclosure agreement in exchange for you not pursuing fraud charges. What about Marcus? He's been put on administrative leave pending investigation into the corporate espionage. Catherine's taking it seriously. Whether they fire him or he resigns is still TBD, but either way, his reputation is trashed. Good. So do we take the settlement? I thought about it. About what I wanted. Revenge? Justice? Closure? What does she pay if we pursue charges? Potentially criminal penalties for fraud. Restitution. But Daniel, it would be messy. Public. Drawn out. You'd have to testify, go through discovery, relive all of this in a courtroom. And if we settle? She disappears. You get your house back, your life back, and you never have to see or think about her again. Take the settlement. Make sure the NDA is ironclad. She doesn't talk about me, the marriage, any of it. Ever. Done. Congratulations, Daniel. You're free. Free. The word should have felt victorious. Instead, it just felt quiet. Like the end of a long, exhausting race where you're too tired to celebrate crossing the finish line. Thanks, David. Send me the final papers when they're ready. Will do. And Daniel? For what it's worth, you handled this with a lot of grace. A lot of guys would have gone nuclear. I still might. Fair enough. We hung up and I sat there, watching the last light fade from the sky, thinking about everything I'd lost and everything I'd gained. A marriage that never was. A brother who'd betrayed me. A family that had looked away. But also, freedom. Clarity. The knowledge that I was capable of surviving this. Of choosing myself even when it was hard. That night, I slept better than I had in years. I flew back to the city on Sunday. The house was empty when I arrived. Sarah had moved out early, probably wanting to avoid any chance of seeing me. She'd taken her clothes, her toiletries, a few pieces of furniture she'd claimed as hers. Everything else remained. I walked through the rooms, seeing them differently now. The living room where we'd hosted dinner parties. The kitchen where we'd made breakfast on lazy Sundays, back when we still did things like that. The bedroom where we'd stopped touching each other sometime in year 3, our intimacy fading to nothing so gradually that I hadn't noticed until it was gone. All of it had been a stage set, a performance of marriage without the substance. I hired movers to clear out everything she'd left behind. Donate it, sell it, burn it, I didn't care. Hired an interior designer to help me redecorate, make the space mine instead of ours. Bought new furniture, new artwork, new everything. Erased the ghost of Sarah from every corner. At work, Marcus's departure was handled quietly. Pursuing other opportunities, the official announcement said. Everyone knew what that meant. People whispered in hallways, speculated over coffee, but nobody asked me directly. I kept my head down, did my work, and let the rumor mill grind without me. Catherine called me into her office 3 weeks after I got back. I want to apologize, she said. For what? For not seeing it. For not noticing that something was wrong. Marcus was accessing your files for months, and I didn't catch it. That's a failure of oversight on my part. It's not your job to babysit grown adults. It's my job to protect my people. You're one of my best. I should have been paying better attention. I didn't notice either. And it was my life. She nodded slowly. How are you doing? Really? Better. Some days are hard. But I'm better. Good. Because I have a proposition for you. I'm listening. We're opening a new office. London. I want someone senior to run it. Someone I trust completely. It would be a promotion, executive VP level, full autonomy, significant raise. And it would be a fresh start. Away from all this. London. I'd always wanted to live abroad. Sarah had always said no, said it was too far from family, too disruptive, too risky for her career. But Sarah wasn't here anymore. When would I start? July. 6 months to get things sorted here, transition your projects, set up the new office. Think about it. Talk to whoever you need to talk to. Let me know by end of month. I thought about it for exactly 30 seconds. Yes. 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 I'll do it. I don't need to think about it. I want this. Catherine smiled. The real smile, not the corporate one. Good. Welcome to the executive team. Let's build something great. I called Claire that night. I'm moving to London. What? When? July. Executive VP. Running the new office. She was quiet for a moment. Then, good. That's really good, Danny. You deserve it. Want to visit? Once I'm settled? Absolutely. David and I have always wanted to go. Bring the kids. I'll have space. You're getting a place big enough for visitors? I'm getting a place big enough for the life I actually want, not the life someone else decided I should have. I'm proud of you. Thanks, Claire. And Danny? I know I've said it before, but I'm sorry. For not telling you. For not having your back when you needed it. I know. We're okay. Are we? We will be. Family is complicated. But you're still my sister. That matters. It does. Thank you. We talked for another hour about London and work and her kids and life. Easy conversation, the kind we used to have before everything got complicated. It felt like finding something I'd lost, something I'd forgotten I was missing. Sarah reached out one more time, 3 months later. Not directly. Through a mutual friend who didn't know better. The message was simple. Can we talk? Just once. I want to explain. I thought about it. About whether I needed closure. About whether hearing her side would change anything. Then I thought about the letter I'd left on the dining room table that night, all those months ago. About the clarity I'd felt walking out. About the life I was building now, the London apartment I'd already leased, the team I was assembling, the future that looked nothing like the past. I didn't need to hear her explain. I already understood everything that mattered. I sent back a single word. No. The last dinner party happened on my final night in the city, not at my house. I'd already sold it, made a significant profit, took pleasure in knowing Sarah wouldn't see a penny of it. Instead, I rented out a private room at Aquavit, the restaurant where I'd celebrated my birthday alone. I invited the people who mattered, Claire and David. Rebecca, who'd been promoted to senior assistant and was coming with me to London. Catherine, a handful of colleagues who'd become real friends. David Remington, my attorney, who'd become something like a mentor. No family beyond Claire. No past ghosts. Just the people who'd proven they deserved a seat at my table. Stefan, the server from that first night, recognized me when I arrived. Mr. Chun, welcome back. Special occasion. Very special. I'm moving to London. This is my goodbye dinner. Congratulations. We'll make it memorable. He did. 8 courses of extraordinary food. Champagne that cost more than my first car. Toasts and laughter, and the warm feeling of being surrounded by people who actually cared. Halfway through the evening, Rebecca stood and raised her glass. To Daniel, she said, who taught me that success isn't about working yourself to death for people who don't appreciate you. It's about building a life that actually makes you happy. Thank you for showing us what that looks like. Hear, hear, Catherine added. And thank you for trusting me with your truth. The best leaders aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who get back up with dignity. Claire was next. To my brother, who's always been the strong one. The reliable one. The one who sacrificed too much for people who didn't deserve it. I'm so proud of who you're becoming. Or maybe just proud that you're finally letting us see who you've always been. I felt something tighten in my chest, something warm and painful and healing all at once. Thank you, I managed. All of you. This year has been complicated, painful, but also clarifying. I learned that you can survive losing almost everything and still come out whole. I learned that sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away with your dignity intact. And I learned that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who has your back, who sees you. I looked around the table. You all showed up. Thank you for that. We ate and drank and talked late into the night. No drama, no betrayal, no forgotten birthdays or casual cruelties. Just honest connection between people who chose to be there. It was the best dinner party of my life. 6 months later, I stood in my London flat, a converted warehouse in Shoreditch with exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows and absolutely no memories of Sarah or Marcus or the life I'd left behind. My phone buzzed. A text from Claire with a photo, her family at Thanksgiving, the kids wearing matching sweaters, David carving a turkey. The caption, "Wish you were here. Mom asking about you. She finally understands why you left." I smiled and typed back. Tell her I'm exactly where I need to be. Another text, this one from Rebecca. Team meeting went brilliantly. The London office is officially kicking ass. Drinks tonight to celebrate. Me, absolutely. The usual place? Rebecca, see you at 7. I set my phone down and looked out the window at the London skyline. It was raining. It was always raining in London, but somehow that felt appropriate. Cleansing. Like the city was washing away the last traces of who I used to be. I thought about Sarah sometimes. Wondered if she was happy with Marcus. Wondered if they felt guilty or just felt like they'd gotten away with something. Mostly, I wondered if they ever thought about what they'd destroyed. But I didn't wonder for long. That life was done. That Daniel was gone. This Daniel, London Daniel, Executive VP Daniel, rebuilt from the ground up Daniel, was someone different. Someone stronger. Someone who'd learned the most important lesson of all. The people who love you don't forget your birthday. They don't make you invisible. They don't commit fraud and call it love. And when they fail you, when they hurt you, when they show you exactly who they are, you believe them. Then you walk away. You pack your bag, and you go to a restaurant worthy of your special day. You leave a letter that tells the truth they didn't want to hear. And you build a life so extraordinary that their betrayal becomes just a footnote in your story, not the defining chapter. 1 year after that birthday dinner I'd eaten alone, I threw myself a party. Not in London, somewhere better. I flew Claire and David and their kids to Paris, rented a private room at L'Ambroisie, one of the most exclusive restaurants in the world, invited Rebecca and her husband, Catherine and her wife, David Remington and his partner. No one who'd forgotten. Only people who remembered. We ate foie gras and champagne. We toasted to second chances and new beginnings. We laughed so hard the sommelier asked us to keep it down, then laughed with us when he realized we were just that happy. At the end of the night, Claire hugged me tight and whispered, "You did it. You really did it." Did what? Survived. More than survived. You thrived. I had help, but you did the work. You walked away when it would have been easier to stay. You chose yourself. That takes courage. I thought about that first walkout. About standing in my own home, invisible and dismissed. About the cold clarity of realizing I deserved better. About every difficult choice that had followed. The divorce that wasn't, the eviction, the career changes, the move across an ocean. About finding out who I was when I stopped performing for people who didn't care about the show. It wasn't courage, I said. It was survival. Maybe that's the same thing. Maybe it was. Years later, when people ask me about that time, about what happened to my first marriage, I tell them the truth in the simplest terms. I had a birthday party without me. I decided I deserved better, so I threw myself one instead. Most people laugh, thinking it's a joke. The ones who've been there, the ones who've ever felt invisible in their own lives, they understand. They get the letter. They get the quiet exit. They get the restaurant worthy of the occasion. They get the rebuild. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's construction. Building a life so full, so rich, so undeniably yours that the people who dismissed you become irrelevant. Not villains in your story. Just extras who didn't make the final cut. My phone rings. It's late, past midnight. But I'm still awake, working on a proposal for the Singapore expansion. London outside my window is dark and wet and beautiful. The number is blocked, but I answer anyway. Years of corporate life have trained me to always be available. Daniel Chun. Silence. Then, it's Sarah. I should hang up. I should maintain the boundary I established years ago. I should protect the peace I've built. But curiosity wins. What do you want? I wanted to hear your voice. I wanted to know if you're okay. I'm fine. More than fine. Good. That's good. She sounds different. Older, maybe. Tired. I read about the Singapore expansion. Congratulations. Thank you. You always were going to be successful. I knew that about you. But you didn't want to be married to it. I didn't want to be married to your absence. There's a difference. I leaned back in my chair, looking at nothing. Why are you calling, Sarah? Because it's your birthday tomorrow. And I remembered. The words land like stones. Heavy and cold and years too late. I appreciate that. I say carefully. But it doesn't change anything. I know. I just wanted you to know that I remember. That I'm sorry. That I wish. Don't. Don't what? Don't wish for something different. Don't rewrite history. Don't try to make this into a tragedy instead of what it was. Fraud and betrayal and the consequences of your choices. Silence. How's Marcus? I ask, because I'm petty enough to want to know. We're divorced. Have been for almost a year. Interesting. What happened? Turns out he was exactly the kind of man who'd steal his brother's wife. Which means he was exactly the kind of man who'd cheat on me too. I don't feel satisfaction. Don't feel vindication. Just a kind of tired resignation. Of course Marcus cheated. Of course the pattern repeated. Of course the people who betray with you will eventually betray you. I'm sorry, I say and mean it. Are you? Really? Yes. I'm sorry you built your life on a foundation of lies and are now dealing with the consequences. I'm sorry you threw away something real for something that was never going to last. I'm sorry you have to live with yourself. That's not. But Sarah? I'm not sorry I left. I'm not sorry I rebuilt without you. And I'm not sorry that tomorrow, on my birthday, I'll be celebrating with people who actually give a damn about me. Daniel. Goodbye, Sarah. Don't call again. I hang up before she can respond. Block the number. Delete the call log. Then I sit there, breathing slowly, letting the adrenaline fade. Tomorrow is my birthday. I'm turning 42. And I'm going to celebrate it exactly the way I want. Dinner with friends who matter, champagne that costs too much, food that makes me happy, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing I chose the right path. The hard path, but the right one. The next evening, I'm at Sketch in Mayfair. Pink chairs and marble and Instagram-worthy bathrooms that look like art installations. Rebecca organized it, invited a dozen people, and swore me to secrecy about the surprise aspect. I pretend to be surprised when I walk in and everyone yells. I'm not. Rebecca's many talents don't include subtlety, but the effort matters more than the execution. We eat and drink and laugh. Someone gives a toast about my leadership. Someone else tells an embarrassing story from a business trip to Frankfurt. Someone gifts me an absolutely ridiculous bottle of whiskey that probably costs more than my first car. Halfway through dessert, my phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. I almost ignore it. Almost delete it without looking. But something makes me check. The message is simple. Happy birthday, little brother. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you're happy. You deserve it. M. Marcus. I stare at the message for a long moment. All the anger I thought I'd processed, all the hurt I'd buried, all the betrayal I'd supposedly forgiven. It surfaces briefly, sharp and immediate. Then it fades. Because Marcus doesn't get to have space in my head anymore. He doesn't get to occupy my thoughts or affect my mood or intrude on my celebration. He's just words on a screen. Meaningless. Powerless. I delete the message, block the number, and return to my party. Everything okay? Rebecca asks quietly. Perfect, I say. And I mean it. Late that night, back in my flat, I do something I haven't done in years. I pull out the letter. The original one, the one I left on the dining room table 3 years ago. I'd kept a copy, printed and folded in the back of my desk drawer, a reminder of the moment everything changed. I read it through, seeing it with fresh eyes. The anger is still there. The hurt is still valid. But there's something else too, something I didn't see when I wrote it. Hope. Even in the midst of betrayal, even while calling out my family's complicity, even while burning down the life I'd built, there was hope underlying every word. Hope that I could be something more than what they'd reduced me to. Hope that I deserved better. Hope that walking away was possible and necessary and brave. I'd spent so much time thinking about what Sarah and Marcus had taken from me. But maybe they'd given me something too. Permission to leave. Permission to choose myself. Permission to stop performing and start living. I wouldn't thank them for it. Wouldn't send a note or make a call or offer forgiveness they hadn't earned. But I could acknowledge the strange gift hidden inside the devastation, the gift of necessity. Sometimes we only change when staying becomes impossible. Sometimes we only grow when comfort is ripped away. I fold the letter carefully and put it back in the drawer. Not to forget, I'll never forget, but because it's time to stop carrying it with me everywhere. The story matters. But it's not the only story. Years pass. The London office thrives. I get promoted again, COO now, overseeing European operations. My calendar fills with important meetings and international travel and the kind of professional respect I'd always worked for but never quite achieved when I was too busy being Sarah's ATM. I date occasionally. Nothing serious. I'm not ready for serious. May never be ready for serious again. But I enjoy companionship. Dinner conversations that don't feel like transactions. Affection that doesn't come with hidden price tags. Claire visits every Christmas with her family. My nieces and nephew grow up knowing their Uncle Danny as someone who lives in London and sends gifts from interesting places and always makes time for video calls even when he's busy. My parents eventually reach out. Awkward conversations that slowly, painfully, become real. They apologize. Not enough, never enough, but something. I accept because holding on to anger takes energy I'd rather spend elsewhere. Marcus I never hear from again after that one text. Last Claire mentioned, he'd moved to California, started over somewhere he didn't have a reputation to rebuild from. She doesn't know more than that. I don't ask. Sarah is a stranger. Someone I once knew. Someone who once mattered. Someone who taught me expensive lessons about trust and autonomy and the importance of legal documents. I don't hate her. Hate requires ongoing emotional investment, and I have better things to invest in. But I don't forgive her either. Forgiveness without acknowledgement is just enabling. And she never acknowledged, never really owned, what she did. So she exists in a category of her own, relevant history, irrelevant present, non-existent future. And I exist in mine, rebuilt, redefined, remarkably okay. On my 45th birthday, I'm in Tokyo. Business trip. Meetings with potential partners for a Japan expansion. Rebecca books me a table at Skiyabashi Jiro, the sushi restaurant from the documentary, 3 Michelin stars legendary. I eat alone. 20 pieces of the best sushi in the world, prepared by a 90-year-old master who treats each piece like a work of art. It costs a fortune. It's worth every penny. Halfway through, I get a message in the group chat Claire started years ago. Happy birthday, Danny. We love you. Miss you. Come home soon. Photos of her family, all holding signs that spell out, Happy birthday, Uncle Danny. I smile and type back, love you all too. See you at Christmas. More messages flood in. Rebecca, Catherine, David Remington, colleagues from London and Singapore and New York. Friends I've made in various cities, various roles, various versions of my life. None of them forget. All of them show up, even if just digitally. All of them see me. And suddenly I'm not eating alone at all. I'm surrounded by proof that I matter. That I built something real. That walking away 3 years ago wasn't an ending, but a beginning. The chef notices me smiling at my phone. Good news? He asks in careful English. Birthday wishes, I say. From people who remembered. He nods, understanding something unspoken. The best kind. Yes, I agree. The best kind. I'm writing this in my London flat on a Sunday morning. Rain on the windows. Coffee on my desk. A quiet day stretching ahead with nothing demanded of me except my own presence. I'm writing this because sometimes people ask how I survived. How I walked away. How I rebuilt after everything fell apart. And I want them to know it wasn't magic. Wasn't strength. Wasn't some innate resilience I possessed that they don't. It was just a choice. A series of small choices that accumulated into transformation. The choice to leave that dinner party. The choice to eat at a restaurant that respected me. The choice to write the letter instead of swallowing the pain. The choice to hire an attorney instead of hoping it would work out. The choice to move across an ocean instead of staying where everything reminded me of failure. The choice to say yes to the people who showed up and no to the people who didn't. The choice, over and over and over, to believe I deserved better than I was getting. That's all it was. That's all it is. A choice to matter in your own life. If you're reading this and you feel invisible, in your marriage, your family, your job, your life, I want you to know something. You're not invisible. You're just surrounded by people who've stopped looking. And you deserve to be seen. You deserve birthdays that are celebrated, not forgotten. You deserve love that shows up, not love that makes excuses. You deserve respect that's given freely, not respect you have to beg for. If you're not getting those things, if you're standing in your own life feeling like a ghost in someone else's story, then maybe it's time to do what I did. Pack a bag. Find a restaurant worthy of your occasion. Leave a letter that tells the truth. And walk toward a life where you finally matter. Not to them. To you. My phone rings. It's Claire. Hey, I answer. What's up? Nothing. Just calling. Wanted to hear your voice. Everything okay? Everything's fine. I was thinking about that birthday. The one where they forgot. Where you left. That was a long time ago. I know. But I think about it sometimes. About how brave you were. I wasn't brave. I was desperate. Same thing sometimes. She pauses. I wanted to tell you something. Something I should have said years ago. Okay. You taught me something that night. You taught me that it's okay to walk away from people who hurt you, even when they're family. Especially when they're family. You taught me that loyalty to yourself matters more than loyalty to people who don't deserve it. Claire. No, let me finish. I used to think family meant accepting everything, forgiving everything, staying no matter what. But you showed me that's not love. That's just enabling. Real love, real family, requires accountability. Respect. Showing up. I don't know what to say, so I don't say anything. Anyway, she continues, I just wanted you to know that your choice that night didn't just save you. It taught the rest of us that saving ourselves was possible too. Thank you, I manage. Also, David and I are planning our own London adventure next month. Can we crash with you? I laugh, grateful for the subject change. Absolutely. I'll take vacation days. We'll do it properly. Perfect. Love you, brother. Love you too. We hang up and I sit there, feeling something shift. A final piece clicking into place. A final weight lifting. Because maybe that's the real ending. Not revenge or justice or poetic irony, but simply this. The life you build after you leave becomes better than the life you left. The people you choose become more important than the people who chose to forget you. And the birthday dinners you throw yourself, surrounded by love you've earned, become infinitely more meaningful than any party someone else could have planned. Tonight, I'm having dinner with friends. Tomorrow, I'm flying to Singapore for the expansion launch. Next week, I'm speaking at a conference about leadership and resilience. My calendar is full. My life is full. And if you asked me whether I'd change anything about that night 3 years ago, the forgotten birthday, the dinner without me, the letter I left behind, I'd tell you honestly, not a thing. Because that night, I stopped being invisible. That night, I started choosing myself. That night, I learned the most important lesson. The people who matter don't forget. And the people who forget don't matter. Everything else is just details. The snow has stopped falling. The city is quiet. And I am, finally, free.